AI is not going to replace your job, but the person who understands how to use AI probably will. It's another tool. I also liken it to, it's a calculator for words.
Chad Israel is a social media guru, expert, guide, mentor, manager, insert the blank. Sherpa. I like Sherpa. Let's go with Sherpa.
Yeah, go with that.
And he leads social media over at Microsoft. Chad, thank you so much for being here.
How's it going, Matt? Great to be here. Thank you for having me, and look forward to having a fun conversation with you today.
Yeah, me too. And, we're going to talk about AI, which everybody loves talking about, of course, but like specifically for social, I know you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, so we can get into some of that. But I guess before we get into the topic of the day, maybe you could just give a little bit of your backstory. So how to, as I've gotten to know you a little bit, you're a tinker, you're sort of somebody who really gets in the sandbox, plays with the new tools, and kind of an early adopter. How did you get into this world in the first place?
That's a great segue. And again, fun little anecdotal story is I've enjoyed a nonlinear progression throughout my career. And yeah, started way back, wasn't really thinking about marketing, but kind of fast forward a little bit. I was working on a reality TV show pilot. And the producer of the pilot at the time was, limited budget. And we had the ability to hire a casting agency that would have taken up probably about half of our production budget. Okay. Or at the time, there was this new platform called MySpace that had come out. And
I remember that one.
You remember that one? And
I was definitely on MySpace, yeah.
Did you have your page pimped out?
I did. Pretty cool song, pretty sweet photos. I'm nervous to find out if it still exists.
Ooh, you know what? I tried to go back into mine after Timberlake bought the company, and gone. All that work.
All gone. Okay. I'm glad to know. They didn't know there.
Fortunately, not floating. Well, again, it might be on a server somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but okay. I'd say all that old MySpace content will never resurface again. I think we'll be safe for that. So the casting went slightly a different direction, because at the time, I had a few friends who were in bands, and they were using MySpace to really like communicate and build community with their fans. And back then, it was kind of tough to know like where indie band was going to be performing, because there was really no platform online. People had flip phones, so no one was doing like mobile communication at the time. You kind of had to just find like little trade publications or flyers around town or on college campuses. So MySpace really became a really amazing tool for those bands as they first started leveraging. And so I had the idea like, well, why don't I try it for casting? So I held my breath, put out a casting notice. I just wanted 20 people to show up. That's it. That was pretty much what the casting agency had, promised to provide us as far as headshots and resumes, stuff like that. We had over 250 people wrapped around the side of the building. The producer of the show pulled me aside and like, look, I'm working on this other side company, and I think what you just figured out on MySpace is going to, plug into what we're trying to do over here. And it was before social media even had a term. We were going with snack size bites of entertainment, because at the time, screens were starting to shrink. Apple had released the iPod with that little mini screen on it. And so, as visionaries and again, futurists, we started to see like, one day the future of content will be consumed in the palm of someone's hand. From that idea, we started a company called Mocuvo, and it was essentially supposed to be like a TV guide for digital content. So you wanted to schedule like a YouTube channel mixed with Lost and throw in Game of Thrones. All that content was being thrown out on RSS feeds. So we basically just created a very simple platform that could pull in those feeds from outside sources and then let individuals curate that content. Yeah, down the road a little bit, that didn't quite like blow up like we thought it would, but we got bought by an ad agency because we were creating content in the box. We had a green screen, the Sony Red Cam came out, and so it was almost like the first democratization, if you will, of the film industry. And so no longer did you have to have an Avid studio. You could do everything Final Cut. pretty much one, two production teams. And we were able to churn out some really low level content for brands that were willing to dip their toe into social. And that really kind of like opened up the floodgates. And, from there, we started working with, legitimate brands like Abbott Labs, Chick-fil-A, Nationwide that, wanted to take a more serious approach to social as opposed to just putting up some funny videos on YouTube and building a following there. So,
Is this you and like your buddy that wanted to start this company? Is it just you guys doing all this stuff?
yeah, there was like three of us, three, four of us. And we were just, again, that vision of just creating something in the garage and having it turn into something, that was essentially what we did.
So that's some good background. I'm sure some more will pop up as we talk, but so we're going to talk about AI and social media. What are the types of, I mean, a lot of people know about generally like AI can be used for marketing research, can be used for all these things, sort of honing it into social. What are the types of things you're doing with it?
I remember when I first read an article about how AI is going to replace journalism and copywriting. And I'm not sure if it was ChatGPT, the impetus, or it was kind of in that related field. And it was actually, I believe, a company that was, or a test that was going on in Chicago, where local newspaper, I think Evanston or something like that, they had the idea to test out a kind of like a chat bot. And so they gave this chatbot box scores of Little League baseball games. And so the chatbot was basically able to accurately write out these long, lengthy articles just based on box scores. Color analyze, Billy Donovan just knocked one out of the, really put some, a great commentary behind it. And they A/B tested. And I think virtually no one within their readership were able to identify that this was written by a bot, or now we call them all AI. But back then it was just a good chat bot. At that moment when I read that article, I'm like, I'm not going to have a job in 10 years. My agency's going to be fired. There's no reason for all this money to go to content creation and copywriting. This is the end. And so again, kind of, as we set the stage, I'm a futurist. I love innovation, and I love, how new technology is going to really like shape, impact, and, be an enablement for just us as individuals and humankind as, as a whole. So, and I'm a creator. So, from that, I'm able to sort of see this really unique opportunity in this section. And it's where like that fear of AI taking our jobs or replacing us one day, I've come across this saying. I don't know if I coined it or if I just grabbed it from someone else, but AI is not going to replace your job, but the person who understands how to use AI probably will. It's another tool. I also liken it to, it's a calculator for words. Again, no one's like, taking away calculus, but at some point in time, calculus was very difficult to perform without, the help of, some type of mechanically engineered device. And now we're just at the beginning of how AI is going to make an impact in our lives.
So is there like an example or a scenario you could give me, whether I know Microsoft's top secret, so we might not be able to go there, but, past lives or past areas where, hey, for example, we can like download LinkedIn X, Y, and Z. Then I give it a prompt X, Y, and Z, and then it spits out a report for like an executive to review, or kind of, is there a scenario like that you can help us understand?
Yeah, there were few roles ago, again, when chat was really just starting to come out and brand new. Again, I'm a big into test and learn. And I was at Fleischman Hillard and kind of really encouraged to start testing out a lot of these different emerging platforms. And again, working for our clients, trying to discover the latest and greatest in technology, see around corners. So that was one of the first places where I really started to dip my toe in. And then, the next role that I went to after that, there was it kind of a legacy brand that invested. It was Visit Florida, and they invested a lot of money in paid social, and content creators. So there was a really interesting opportunity to kind of see like the effectiveness of writing copy, because we would have a lot of different audience segmentations for one piece of content.
Mm.
And so you're writing about, sometimes 40 different, lines of cop or 40 different ads for one specific piece of creative that's trying to
So
touch.
those ads will go to different geographies,
Exactly. Yeah.
is the idea?
Yep.
Okay.
So again, if I got a beautiful beach that I'm wanting to show you, but you live in Chicago and it's February, I'm gonna want to like write that ad copy, to you sort of match, that mood and vibe that you might be in February, wanting to get out in Florida.
Yes. Yeah.
California at that same time, I'm not going to be able to use those same value propositions to get entice you to go from California to Florida. So utilizing AI in that sort of fashion was a game changer because one, it saved and freed up a ton amount of time just to create all those individual lines of copy. But then also realized, wow, we spend a lot of money on all the agencies to kind of do the copywriting, create this content in the first
Right.
place. Let me just do this little experiment to see if I might be able to save, the state of Florida a lot of money by moving from an agency model and bringing everything in house and letting AI do most of that creative work. And so I started testing it, and no one realized, no one recognized, and so it was like that moment where I'm like, you know what? I'm proud of this. Let me run this up the flag. It was at the time where there was still like this apprehension, like, okay, slow down, son, because this might just get us all fired if now literally this tool can do 90% of what we're hiring agencies and all the. So there were some other downstream implications, ramifications that, again, wasn't necessarily considering at the time. I'm just looking at this amazing new tool that's in the marketplace. No one really understands how to use it and how it can be, how you can benefit from it. So, that's where, again, just that ability to test and learn doesn't necessarily work everywhere you're at. So I'll preface that.
Culture is an important piece of that.
Yes, and at Microsoft, it is highly encouraged because we're testing and learning as we go along. So we're seeing some of these cutting edge products come out, and the way that we apply the utilization of that technology, that's where we're encouraged to kind of really like test the boundaries, see how you can make an impact benefit for your specific your role and your duty, and find ways that we can leverage it. And then again, there's the sharing and almost the evangelization piece of it, because it's an amazing tool once you figure out the best way for you to utilize it.
Sure. Yeah. And it's obviously there's a lot of different use cases that are ever growing. Do you have like a set of tools that are like, I use ChatGPT for writing, I use Autopilot for this, I use this for, or is it all kind of all in one or all in a couple tools for you?
I like to test out everything. So from Gemini, ChatGPT, 3.5, 4.0, Microsoft Copilot, even Alexa, some of the skill set that you have there. Even I honestly haven't tested out the Instagram one yet. I just saw that one the other day that now Instagram's going to do, leverage AI, but I'm curious as to how Instagram's going to leverage AI, but I haven't tested theirs out yet. But
Okay.
Canva, another tool, when it comes to basically text to image or
Right.
text to creating like a new deck. There's just so many platforms that are starting to implement and find some way to adapt AI into their customer solutions. It's almost it's incredible. I mean, it almost like short of words to describe it, because it's coming at us fast, and it is reshaping the way that companies are kind of structured even these days. And
Yeah.
we see
Sure.
the headlines just about daily on LinkedIn where, again, sometimes they're positive, sometimes they, can have some negative leans to them. But
Sure.
at the end of the day, we're still, I think, as a society and, just, business community, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure. And so for social, going back to that, are you doing a lot of training of like voice? And that's one of the things that I get as I dig deeper. It's that you could pop on like a Chat GPT, for example, and you could say, write me this article, right? And it'll do it. But I know the people who are really using it the right way, there's a lot more to the training aspect and to the prompt.
I've dabbled,
Yeah.
specifically for my wife, who's a third grade teacher. She is not into technology, but yeah, I found that it was very helpful with helping her write resumes. Yeah, and so she's looking to get out of teaching. So again, like being able to take a job description, have that work, put that into ChatGPT and merge that with your resume so you can get a very customized resume that matches, virtually everything in that job description. Other things that I started to, then kind of get her interested in, like seeing at the end of the day, wow, you spend 2 hours sitting on the couch while we're watching Netflix, grading papers. Yeah, is there a way like I can actually make a customized chat within ChatGPT or even Copilot that is going to be customized to a specific task that you need to carry out? So I'm in the middle of kind of testing it right now, and it's working to a really nice degree where we can just take a picture of the quizzes for 25 kids. And so that photo we can now upload and have the AI engine go through and grade the papers. So now it's taking what took 2 hours is literally 20 minutes,
Holy
maybe
cow.
from A to Z.
So you're using it for AI for a range of things. You're doing training for it, obviously. You're doing it for a lot of writing, so it's your writer's staff in one way. You're doing it for reporting, summarized reports. I think grading the teacher paper is a good example of like taking a one task and making it super efficient. Is there anything else that for us social media managers or content creators that we should be considering in terms of
You
use?
know, the one other aspect is we kind of touched on it a little bit, but the text to image, the visual
Yeah.
AI, it is again like out the gate. It's not perfect, but neither were virtually all the technologies that we use today. They weren't perfect out the gate. So I'm predicting that within the next year or two, that content generation piece is going to really be impactful from the standpoint of now, like where again, I had a long time ago someone pick up a smartphone and just go through apps and like rattle off the legacy companies that are no longer existent. Sony closed down their last digital camera, not making alarm clocks anymore. Rand McNally not really selling a lot of maps these days. That's where I'm almost seeing maybe the collapse of royalty free content. And now you don't necessarily have to go out and do a photo shoot of all these like people doing really crafted and elderly acted things. You can just type, I need a person holding a cell phone up to their face, ordering coffee while on a tablet. It's like literally you can create the image that's going to absolutely speak to your product, speak to your audience, and again, help move your brand a lot faster in that ecosystem.
Were you a Craigslist guy? Did you use Craigslist to find things?
Oh man, Craigslist was the best. Like every day we would get together and just read through misconnections and have some of the best, again, just a bunch of copywriters getting together, like looking for source material. Craigslist was no shortage of providing that every day.
It's like entertainment basically. It's funny because we talked about rap and we talked about I was in a comedy rap band, and when I first moved to Chicago, I was looking for another comedy rapper to join my rap group, and I posted on it Craigslist to find somebody, and
Nice.
one person responded.
Kanye?
No, it wasn't Kanye, unfortunately. He was Occupado, but it was a friend named Ian who basically became one of my best friends.
Nice.
Fast forward to we were, the one guy who responded definitely got the job. He's actually a good rapper though. It worked out really well. But so anyways, Craigslist was like I could find bandmates. I was in a lot of bands and didn't just do comedy rap, but I could find things to Craigslist. That was kind of my Craigslist, MySpace. Those were my two go-tos.
I found apartments, jobs,
Yeah.
miscellaneous items that I would just buy for those who will never know the joy of Craigslist. It literally was the eBay, Google, Amazon of the early 2000s.
Yep. Is the if you whatever you need to find, people, things, whatever, it was the go-to. Chad, I gotta always ask this question here. What is one word or phrase that we should stop using at the workplace? What comes to mind?
That's a great question.
Can we ask our AI tool?
Let me find out real quick. Hold on while I...
And if you could ask it, like, what's one word or phrase that Matt Cornelison should stop using on his podcast?
Ooh, okay.
I don't know that it probably won't be able to find that.
Let's see how smart it is. You nervous?
I'm very nervous. I mean, I'd be impressed if it actually found in something that...
No, it was very, very medicinal. Very honest, though. I'm not sure which phrase specifically you're referring to, but if there is a phrase that's becoming overused or doesn't resonate well with the audience, it might be a good idea for Matt to consider refreshing his language or trying out some new expressions to keep things interesting for his listeners. If you have a particular phrase in mind, I can help you brainstorm some alternatives.
What about something, we're talking about the MySpace and the Craigslist days, so sort of going back into time. When was that? Like early 2000s?
2003-ish.
Okay. Are there any phrases or words from the 2003 era that I could start using again that would make me sound cool?
This has got to give us some good stuff. Oh, well, keep it real.
Keep it real. Okay, let me write that down.
Stay gold.
Stay gold. Okay.
As these were phrases quite popular during that time, it could help infuse a bit of retro charm into his podcast.
I love it. Well, maybe we should infuse a little retro charm with our sign off.
I was hoping Keep It Classy was going to make it in there because
for
some reason, with the two of us, I've got an Anchorman vibe going on.
Super Anchorman. It's like, couldn't really read because it's like a movie about the 70s?
Yeah, that's a good
period. But like made in the early 2000s.
All right, let's see if it comes up with some. It says stay classy, listeners. You stay classy, podcast world.
I like that. Well, Chad, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on all things AI on social. Excited to see I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on LinkedIn, Microsoft LinkedIn, see what you're putting out there in the world.
We'll create some magic. So
awesome.
Again, Matt, this has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, walking down memory lane, kind of pontificating as to what's going to happen in the near and far future. And again, stay gold.
Stay
gold, everyone.
Eu fango.